Okay, then it's now my honor to introduce Rocío del Pilar Sosa Fernandez. And she is a PhD student in communications at the University of Santiago de Compostela. She has been working with Cloudclass throughout 2021, assisting 4 teachers to create classes in 3 faculties. You created classes in education, in mathematics, and in history. And in addition, she was also supporting audiovisual communication students in-person modality to create information pills. In her lecture entitled The White Book of Teaching Through Virtual TV Sets, Rocío will present the White Book created as a conclusion from the experiences carried out throughout the Cloudclass project at the University of Santiago de Compostela. And this document presents a manual of good practices for the creations of educational content using the technology of virtual TV sets, exemplified in the Cloudclass software. So this way, Rocío is the virtual distance twin sister of our own PhD student, Katarina Holubenka, you already saw her before, who focuses upon the good pedagogical and didactical practices for the creation of educational content, where Rocío focuses on the technological aspects. So, Rocío, the floor is yours, and I think you will be joined by Roi, who's your supervisor and also a technical expert at the University of Santiago de Compostela. So, welcome.
Thank you, Renate. So I'm Roi, I'm Rocío's supervisor, and first of all, I want to thank Renate and the OU to hosting us here today and all the partners in the project. So we had a very, very nice experience, and all of you for coming here to listen what we have done. I'm just going to introduce a little bit our university and our work, and then Rocío will explain the core of the research, which, as Renate said, is her PhD. So this book is part of the PhD, like a kind of conclusions of what we have been doing. We come from the University of Santiago de Compostela, which is a city in the northwest of Spain. It's a very old university, it's 529 years. It's a traditional face-to-face university, so it's quite different from the Open University. And we come from a faculty which is a communication science faculty. We come from the audiovisual studies group. And so our point of view is part in education, but part from the communication science point of view also. We've been working with Brainstorm technology and with Brainstorm itself from 13 years in our faculty, so we have quite a big experience using Brainstorm solutions. And I'm glad to say that now we have a new studio in our faculty, which is a top-end professional studio with 3 cameras, a big stage like 7 meters wide and 5 meters depth, which is very nice, and it uses Infinity Set, which is the expensive solution that Francisco said previously. And we know how to use this technology, but this technology is not just that it's very expensive, it's very, very complex to use also. So it's not for everyone. So Edison and Cloudclass is just taking this to an easier step for teachers and for common non-technical people, let's say it. So when Brainstorm asked us to join and to try Edison, we joined gracefully, and then we've been trying Edison technology, both with the students, as Renate said, the students from communication science in the 4th year, the last year of their studies, which used Edison to create content. Also this year, we have created some content with students from history, from a master. And Rocío also worked with several teachers, creating also content and testing it in some subjects that they taught. So what Rocío is presenting here is the white book of teaching through virtual TV sets. It's kind of the conclusions we have arrived from our previous experience as communication scientists and our experience of using this with students and teachers. And what we are trying to do with this white book is just creating a small document where somebody that doesn't know the technology can reach this document and start using the technology. Of course, as every technology, as much as you use it, you will get better, but we want to give a point of view from communication, a small point of view from technology, and a small point of view from education also, so that you can get into this world the easiest possible way. So I don't get more time for me, and I leave you with Rocío, which is going to present the interesting part of this.
Thank you, Roy, for the explanation. I'm Rocío, and I would like to start presenting what is about a white book. Sorry. Okay. What is about a white book? It's a document that tries to include, for example, the information, the analysis, the recommendations in a simple way, using some easy language to understand and to read. This manual, first of all, I would like to introduce 4 sections of these presentations. I will explain the technology of virtual TV sets and also continue with 3 main parts. One is the objectives, the main parts of the white book, and the conclusions. One thing that we have in mind is what is virtual television sets. As Francisco mentioned before, this is the technology that specific permits or provide that a presenter will be immersed in a virtual environment. We have a monochromatic background and to be replaced, but virtual environment created by computer. This is a synthetic environment, for example, that permits to introduce in a virtual environment. So the main objectives of this white book there are 3. One is to promote knowledge, to transfer information for novice users, for example, to create some material from the beginning to the end of the product. The second one is to facilitate the user to create this material, to explain step by step how to create this material. And finally, is to contribute to motivate teachers and students to create, to engage, to concentrate during the lessons. So this white book are divided in 6 sections. First is a theoretical information about what is the technology, how it works, the virtual television set. Next, how many questions we have when we just start to contact with the technology. And the next two parts is about audiovisual and didactic perspective. And the follow is about training, how we can improve the abilities of the skills of the teachers. And finally, what is the possible scenarios when we disseminate or broadcasting the content? So, sorry. Oh, yes. What is about this technology? Francisco previously explained, so it's about the virtual television sets that we use for create some material. We need some equipment. We want to include information that, for example, the reader knows about this technology. When we first tried to create some material, many questions came to our minds. First, how to start, how to create this material, how to find the best way, what skills do I need, where I can find material that we want to include in our content. For example, what skills, how much effort, how much time do I need to invest to create this type of things? And the next one is about the audiovisual perspective. First, we want to know what the technology is, how it works, how many questions I need to resolve first And then we need to gain knowledge about the audiovisual perspective and the didactic perspective. When we want to create some audiovisual material, we know first an idea. This idea came into a screenplay or a shooting script, and then we finally have the video. For example, one idea needs to have three main aspects. The first is about the content, the structure, and the message to be communicated. And when we have this idea very clear, we want to translate in two documents. One is the shooting script, and the second one is about the screenplay. In this part, we know to some specific information and essential information about audiovisual language. How, for example, how it's about the move of the cameras, how it's about the perspective, the point of view, the focus, what's about the shots, the cameras. So we need to know this information for create these two documents. And we have this idea, we're planning the material, we design it, finally recording and editing this content. So in this process, we want to explain information about step by step how to create this material and what information do I need for create it. So in the next part, we have the didactic perspective view. What is the role of the teachers? What is the value for integrate some elements like 3D models, for example, or image or videos? What is the purpose for include? And then we try to consider some recommendations about, for example, how to reusable this material in future occasions, how to facilitate the understanding of complex of concepts, and how to motivate and engage students during the lessons. So we provide some information that could be useful for teachers to teach better way. And the next part is about the training. We know that teachers have a lot of experience in teaching, but it's different to teach in virtual environment. You need to know some different skills and to improve it. For example, how to introduce the subject, how to have the voice and the tone of the voice when you have the speech, and then how to structure the idea, the content, and how to clarify the ideas to engage the audience. And also how to look the camera, the eye contact with the camera, and how to move in the virtual environment. So we provide 6 tips for this training to have a better communication skills. And finally, we have the scenarios. What is the possible way? One is about recording and using like information pills, for example, and to use some software for editing and post-editing, and then to live broadcast. If you, for example, use some video conference platforms like OBS Studio, like Teams, or like other softwares, we need to use it. And we provide also information about available tools that we can find for use it. So in this part, we provide 2 options, and it's possible to recording, to live broadcast, or the 2 options. And finally, I would like to provide the conclusions of the white book. The white book could be better options for using to adapt in any educational level and use in any different field or academic field to use it. So for us, it's better to use it for novice users. For example, if you have no idea what to use this technology, you have a document that explains step by step what we should do for create some material. So I think it's especially useful for novice users. And then it's a document that transfers information that we collect between the previously case studies that we already done at university. So it can be adapted any discipline and any educational level. Thank you so much for your attention. If you have any questions, we're happy to resolve it. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Do you have an estimate, a cost estimate for using this technology to produce material? How how much will it cost?
Maybe Francisco can
Yes.
answer better this question.
We just test the technology.
I think there's 2 points here. I think you refer the cost of preparing, the effort that you need to invest and the cost that it represent in developing materials. The technology is about 15,000 euros, everything.
Not close to Denmark.
Not close to, yeah.
The technology, the cost of the technology is 15,000, everything included, green screen, lights, microphones, a screen, camera, the table, and also the turnkey solution, the PC with the graphic card and our software. It is part of the deal with the European Commission to decrease the price of the solution. But, of course, there's another cost, that is to prepare the contents and to involve the teachers in preparing the contents. That is something that it needs to be defined or designed by each university or educational center. But the technology is not expensive at all. So, but I don't know, I'm not sure if you refer to
The price.
not just the technology, but also the preparation. That's the technology. So this is the...
But
I have another
Pedro, if
question,
you
maybe.
want to try it out, we have it all available in our Cloudclass lab. So you are more than welcome to give one of your classes from our Cloudclass lab.
In line with that question, do you have the same prices for other companies than education? So other firms than schools. So the decreased price is for education only? Or can we, I'm working at an insurance company and I'd love to introduce something like that.
Yeah, the price is the same. This is a set that is, the purpose is to use it in education. But you can use it also to do any kind of presentation, any kind of content, of course.
Okay, do you work with licenses, so you have to buy licenses?
This is a solution with a license.
Okay.
And then the license can have a support. So you pay a maintenance for having support during for more versions, etc., or not, or you decide to buy it and that's all.
Okay.
So it's our model with
Super. Another question is, how long would it take to set up a training?
I think
For
they
a
can.
novice user in this.
I think the end users can tell you, but well, I'm a technical profile, but I think it's very simple. The interface that we have designed for this is thought to not professionals in TVs or for teachers. So teachers can use that, anybody can use it.
Thank you.
Maybe I can already add a bit to that, and maybe also Elena can add to it. We designed or developed a teacher manual. Now teachers from educational sciences come into our Cloudclass lab and they always get some support from either Katarina or Nico or Lian. But teachers come in, they bring in their own slides, which they used already before for that lecture. And within half an hour, they can start running everything. It becomes, of course, a bit more complex when you really want to include 3D models, because you don't have that already in your slides. So it needs a bit of searching the internet to find the right 3D models, for example, or virtual background. But to have the kind of standard lecture format with changing the camera positions and stuff like that with the help of our supporting people, it is relatively easy. But our supporting staff really needed some time to get familiar with the software. But even I was ultimately able to use it. And that's
And I want to also add here, as an example, this year, like last week we finished, I have been teaching in history in a master, and it's like it has been 3 classes, 2-hour classes, they've never touched a 3D model in their life. They are from history, they are not technical people. And the first 2 hours, I just explained how the software worked, and they had their laptops with the software. The next class, we just looked again, because they forgot in a week some aspects, and then we looked for the communicational aspects, and the third day we recorded, and in 2 hours there were 3 groups. It was very small videos, like 2-3 minutes, but they could do it in 2 hours, the 3 videos. And they used 3D models. I just gave them some resources or web pages where they could download, and they downloaded like historical sculptures and these kind of things, and then they moved the camera around the sculpture while they were speaking, and and I think the result was quite nice. So it's not if you want to do simple things, it's very easy to use. Then as it gets more complex, because everything gets more complex. But just to give a lesson or present something with a presentation or even 3D models is a very, very simple approach. You need someone to train you, of course, and maybe some support is nice at the beginning, but it's not complex at all.
I see another 4 questions in the audience, but Kevin, you've got already the mic.
I have a question. I sense there's a distinction between using Cloudclass to create something for learners, and that the creation process can be a learning process that can be useful for any discipline of teacher and any level of teacher, right? But from the learner perspective, how does that, is that also any discipline or any level? Because that's a distinction. So can any learner learn with the stuff that the teachers have made?
Mm-hmm.
For example, it's completely different how the learners receive or watch the video. They engage more when they see, for example, a 3D model and materialize the idea or a complex concept to learn. Yeah? But for teachers, I think it's a different perspective. They create and try to integrate some strategies to gain the learner's attention. So I think it's 2 perspectives, but I think the software could be useful for both. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, yeah. You did answer my question. So useful for both. And the distinction you made is that the dynamic visualization of the subject would be important, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Later on, I will also describe some use cases where we really validated the effectiveness for the students or the learners.
It's my turn now? Okay, thank you. Well, my question was quite similar, and I'm curious whether we are going to see some examples of videos you created. Okay, and I have another question. Is the white book also, is it available, and is it also useful for, when you use other techniques? Because we have studios, maybe not 3D, but I can imagine that educational considerations and so forth are similar.
Yes, this white book is the final conclusion of my thesis. I'm writing right now to final the dissertation, so I think it would be available later when I finish my PhD. So
she has to present in May, so
yes.
In how many years?
I mean, and the second question, which was another different technology, I guess the part of virtual studios will maybe not be useful, but the part of communication, speech, training, all this kind of stuff, I think it will be very useful also. Yeah.
So if I want to create a 3D model from scratch, how easy or difficult is it?
Do you need to know how to design it and to create the 3D model? Yes, of course. But you can find some libraries for open source to use it, some models. For example, you don't need to create from the beginning, so maybe you can download some 3D elements and include it in the presentation. Because if you start to create, maybe it takes more time and you think about what is the value to integrate these specific models. So I think this book is trying to provide this information. It's important for you to design from the beginning. It's important to include this type of model. Yes, you need to think about it.
One thing we've been struggling all the project is to fight with the wow effect, which many times is that kind of thing. Oh, I'm going to include 100 3D models, and then continuously, and then what we have to say is, okay, is that valid or not, or that this thing provides something for the student or for the experience, or it's even worse because it's just distracting. For example, the background, we've been talking a lot about this. It's better to have a plain black background or a background with lots of information which can then, the students then are looking to the background instead of listening to the teacher or the content. It's quite complex, and the book tries to say a little bit about that from our point of view and our experience.
Regarding the 3D models, now you know that there's a lot of artificial intelligence tools that are coming up. And there's techniques like NERF or Gaussian splatting that with a video, you can take some pictures or a video of a 3D object, and you get a 3D model in seconds. So you can get it and use it in this solution.
So,
yeah, well, actually, the more you tell, the more questions I have, of course. Is it also possible to add closed captioning when a speaker tells something or present text? Yeah, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the example. We need to see an example to have even more questions.
So my question is directly to what about AI? Like, especially we have the generative AI for 3D models, and they also exist for text-based. So you have text-based input to create a 3D model. But what I was thinking also is like replacing parts of, for example, the green screen can also be replaced in the future, maybe with AI. Like, is that something you think about? Is that something you have in mind to go further with it?
Yes, in fact, in a European project where we are going to replace using, how you say, well, artificial intelligence, you replace the green screen by nothing. You don't use green screen. But it's quite complex. You need to train the system a lot. We are generating a database of hundreds and thousands of capturing, and then the system will be able to learn. Because in the artificial intelligence, the learning process is very important. So we are creating these kind of things. But for sure, in the future, there will be not green screen. And you will decide if you want to capture the background or not. Or if you decide not to capture the background, you will replace it by a synthetic one.
As a communication science teacher, I would like to point here that the green screen or blue screen has been used for years and years, and they have come lots of solutions just trying to replace it, and it can never get replaced because it's very simple and it works great, and then you can have just a green cloth in the background, and you have a green screen. So many times thinking about effort, of course, it's nice to have a normal background and being able to erase it and all this stuff, but maybe simpler just to put a green cloth in the background and do it. For very specific cases, probably it will be nice, and as a research, I think it's very, very interesting. And Francisco knows much more than me about this, but I think that it will be complicated to completely remove green screen because, for example, I don't have that problem with the hair, for example. It's a complex thing to just cut the hair. If you have used Teams or wherever, and the background removal, you will see that it gets like very weird things around. With artificial intelligence, of course, it will improve, but it's very, very complex to get. And nowadays, with the green screen, you can do that. So
when I tell the future is not 5 years.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, I actually do have another question. So
Now there is immersive VR. There is very interactive, like you can give students a tablet with a 3D model they can do, well, like rotate on their own. There might be some collaborative tools. How does this relate to all this landscape of VR, AR, overall, and also in the teaching context, or learning context?
Well, yes, at the end is the way how you want to visualize the content. We are generating the content in real time, and this could be visualized in a screen of the computer, but we could also generate it in for glasses, so for headset displays. So, but the thing is, okay, there's a lot of possibilities, but we need to know who is our customer. If the customer is the student, I don't know if the student wants to be the whole day with a headset in a classroom, and maybe the teacher neither. So we need to think. There's a lot of possibilities, but we need. What we say is we need to adapt the solution to the real needs of the market. And if the market is the educational sector, I think that now is not the best moment to introduce the headsets in classrooms, because at the end you need some kind of eye contact, etc. And in a headset you are completely isolated. Maybe you are sharing a virtual environment with other children, but it's more impersonal. So, well, it's my view. I'm technical, and maybe a psychologist could have a better opinion, but yes, well, there's a lot of possibilities. No?
Question. My name is Vincent. Thank you. Great presentation. I have a question on the quality of education. It always starts with the why. Does the quality of education go up? And are there studies that prove this?
Didn't get it.
Maybe I can.
Yeah.
Best
Sorry, but I cannot say.
In this case, in my lecture later on, I will give you, I think, 4 or 5 examples where we introduced it and where we compared it with Zoom or Teams or even face-to-face education. And I'm not gonna tell now what the clue is and the results are, but you will be informed about that. Still around.
It's what I tell you. The most interesting is coming.
Hi. I have a question too. I was a little bit triggered by your remark that telling that the television, the 3D televisions, disappeared despite its very promising techniques. So I was wondering whether this technique is not going the same fate in respect that, do you have an estimation how many teachers will buy this technology?
Not at all. No, the thing is, this is our first experience in educational market. We have not operated in the educational market. This is our first experience. We are trying to look if, well, our big market is television and film, but we see possibilities to democratize the use of the technology in other sectors. The Commission, the European Commission, wanted to try to promote the use of the technology in small creative industries, and we thought that it could be a good opportunity for education. Maybe we are not right, but I think it's worth it to try, and this is what we are doing. If we fail, okay, at least we have tried. And we will say, well, we tried it and it was not possible. But my impression, and after doing this project, is it's nice to see that the results are promising.
Maybe a little remark also as a reaction to Karel. It's maybe not teachers, but institutions. Because, I mean, what comes out from my research, from our research, is that it's not about only the classroom or only the teacher, it's about the ecosystem and how it fits this ecosystem of education. And there are multiple things involved. So hopefully teachers will be given it.
Yeah.
And
We have so many questions.
yeah,
Sorry,
and
Roi.
not just a point, it's like technology is not the goal, it's just a tool. So I think it's about how people use this technology, that it will be a good solution or a bad solution. For example, 3D is the clear example that everything was going to be 3D, and 3D didn't give anything to a film, for example, depending on the film, I mean. But everything was 3D, and it didn't give any value to many of those films. And I think that's why 3D television disappeared. If the productions started to use really this depth effect and these kind of things, maybe it have gone different, I don't know. But it's like having the technology as a tool and not the goal, I think.
I had a question about the white book. So you talked a little bit in the beginning about, like, I think it was, you were referring to like nonverbal or verbal cues that are important in the environment for students, right, from a teacher's perspective. Do you have like specific advice in your white book or maybe in the training about like exactly how teachers should present themselves? And is that, do you know if that's different from like a regular Teams environment or Zoom or something like that, or is it the same?
Yes, in my experience, it's about communication skills. It's completely different. Sometimes teachers have a lot of experience teaching specifically, but when we put them in the virtual environment, sometimes they didn't move. Yeah, it's completely shame for them to explain the information like in a class, especially teachers that usually teach face-to-face. So, for example, we just choose 6 to show this presentation, but maybe we can explain with details any skill that they needed. For me, the most important is about the eye contact, because we need to look at the camera because the student looked in the same way, so we need to contact the people. So I think the most important part is to move in the environment, just not to be quiet, just to move it and try to integrate some visual objects for explain, yeah? And we interact with the models. So if I move it, for example, I gain your attention. You try to motivate to learning. So for me, it's these 6 important parts, but the first one, the eye contact and the body language.
So you would say actually that the presentation of the teacher is more similar to a face-to-face environment than it would be in what we consider a traditional online environment, then, where you're just sitting in front of a Teams call or something. So because you mentioned like moving around and eye contact, and those are things that we would
just
advise
try to
regular.
Yeah, try to make the presentation the most simple way, because maybe the student get distracted when you put a lot of things in the presentation. So try the presentation to be simple, and also the background, the environment, and try to focus on the speech and the body language.
Yeah. And I would like to add something from my experience using the tool, is that I am a face-to-face in-person teacher, and I've been using it to substitute some lessons or to things like that. And what the students perceive is that your presence is closer with this technology rather than with the traditional technology. It's like an in-between the face-to-face and the usual video or the PowerPoint with your face in a square. And also about having eye contact. They usually prefer to see you, your image be, okay, your face in the screen, really close, and then like the PowerPoint or whatever on your side. Because you cannot move, because in my classes I used to walk a lot, and here I cannot move. So I try somehow to substitute the movement with the camera presence to create a sense of movement, not to be just like sitting there. That's in my experience.
I think also that, in my view, all teaching, there's a performative aspect to teaching. What I think this technology does, which is kind of cool but also challenging, is it shows up a little more the quality of the performance, if that makes sense, because you are effectively kind of making almost like a TV show So it's like if we watch TV and you see a terrible presenter on TV and they're uncomfortable and you go, wow, they're really terrible. Their movements might be kind of very small, but so I think I'm right in saying it demands a bit more of the teacher than perhaps their normal standard. And we all know that there are good performing teachers, and then all of which are in here today, and then some other ones that aren't here that are maybe less good at performing. So probably that means that the selection of who actually does something with this technology will also be based on that. Probably there will be people that think, I'm not sure this is for me, because I'm not that kind of performative teacher. I think that's kind of a, yeah.
And there are like two scenarios. One is the one Elena pointed, which is using eDesk, which is sitting, and and the teacher is controlling the whole system. But the one we use in Santiago, in the white book, we will have both the scenarios, but the one we used in Santiago is with the big stage. It's the same software, but the big stage, and Rocío controlled the software, and then the teacher just gave the lesson. So that's why we are saying, okay, you can move around the virtual stage, and you can interact with, if you are sitting, you can just move the camera or even move your hands, but you cannot walk, for example. In our stage, we have 4 meters depth and 7 wide to move all around. So what we found is that the teachers that have been teaching for 30 years maybe, and are used to teach in front of 100 students, and they have no problem. They get a camera and it's like, and they cannot move, and that's why you need the training, and just so that they look at the camera. That's a very, also, it's a, even if you have if you look just a little bit above the camera, the sensation of the viewer is like, where the hell is he looking to? Because it's like you're talking to a student and you're looking here. So and it's not easy to focus on looking to the camera lens.
Also, just to comment on that, we found out, working with one of the teachers, Olga, is that like this project emerged as a side effect of another project. We also found out that this tool has amazing potential to be used for training, presentation training, because you see yourself immediately, and you can kind of also create, this feedback loop works way faster than with any other tool, even the mirror, because you can also imagine yourself in the situation that you're preparing for. So, yeah, who knows which other projects we're going to have. There are a lot of questions. The queue.
Personally,
we have time for 2 other questions, and then we go over to
I think it can be very successful, but if you look from the learner's perspective, I think it could be more effective if you delete the visual image of the teacher, actually. Because if you're leaning on the 3D part and you're teaching to disciplines that actually use the 3D part, right, for vocational educational training, then the story of the teacher is very important, not so much the image of the teacher, right? So I would propose getting rid of the visual image of the teacher.
From my experience, for example, with these history students, if you have a very good quality 3D model and you're talking about small pieces of the model, you can move the camera there and just work with the model while the teacher is speaking. But having the teacher there at the beginning, for example, just at the side of the object, saying hello, welcome to this lesson, wherever, and making this contact that we were talking about as, okay, it's a person who's talking to me, he has expression, he's moving, and then you can go to the object, tell whatever story you want, and then get back, maybe just to say goodbye or wherever. But you can play with that because you can move freely the camera, absolutely free. So you can create a mix, or you could not use, even if you want, you could do it without your image, of course. But I think the image of the real teacher really gives a thing for the students. I think so. It's like Francisco said before about the virtual reality environments. The main problem, I work with virtual reality, and the main problem of presence of people in virtual reality environments is that you can't see the other people. So, okay, I can interact with a model, usually a very simple model that is moving like the person, but it's not the person. Okay, so, or I look back, down and I don't see my legs, for example. So that's a huge problem in virtual reality, and the thing about immersion is that we are used to talk like we are talking now, looking at a person. So maybe in some points I get your point, and I completely agree, but I think that having the teacher there gives value to the content.
Having different camera presets is very easy. You can configure the different positions of the camera and make a transition just pressing a button. So if you want to introduce the class with your presentation, it's okay, but maybe you have some camera presets directly focused on the part of the statue in a zoom, but you don't need to do it in real time while you are talking. Everything is pre-established. Okay, so you will see later.
Okay, 2 questions.
Hi. So I have a question about the learner's perspective. So for instance, if you have some activities in a classroom where you need to interact with the 3D models, for instance, so yeah, basically you want to know whether you are making mistakes and everything, and then you need to get feedback from teachers. So I was thinking, like, how would you see this, in the future project or something?
Yeah, this is something that we are studying how to do it, but now it's like bidirectional when you are doing a class in real time, using Teams or whatever. You are sharing your screen, and the screen is the virtual environment where the teacher is immersed. You can interact with the audience through voice, but you cannot give permission to the students to get, for example, the mouse and change things in the environment. But I think it's something that is going to change, or at least there will be collaborative platforms where we could stream our result of the production, but giving access to other people of the audience to interact with the 3D models that are in the scene. But I think the first thing now is to start looking at this technology, if it is useful, to introduce it in the educational sector, and if it is well adopted, we will have a lot of possibilities to make the solution more adaptable to the needs of the sector.
I see there will be a lot of potentials there, because for my colleague here, we are teaching the students how to use Arduino and sensors for classrooms. So I would see, because this is the kind of activity that you do on site, right? You need the students to operate this sensor components, and you see, and if there are some mistakes, you give feedback. So, and it's pretty hard to do it remotely because you need the students to have this physical hardware, and I think with 3D models, it's quite a potential there.
Yeah, for sure, it would be very useful to do it in that way. But we are also thinking in the model of generating maybe contents, educational contents that the flipped classroom. The students can see all the material, but go to the university to practice and to have some interaction and questions to the teacher. I think this is not replacing anything; is adding value. Huh?
Interesting. Thanks.
Is there a concept of hybrid in your solution somewhere? Hybrid meaning a number of students and the tutor are physically in the same environment, and another set of students are online presence? Is that concept being worked on?
The concept of hybrid education.
Hybrid, yes. So hybrid meaning students and the tutor are physically in the same space, but a number of students are online.
Yes.
And actively in the same educational event.
Yeah, this was another possibility, that is having the green screen in the same classroom with an audience, and the students that are in the classroom can see the teacher immersed in the environment, but also the people that are, or the students that are participating online. So yes, you can have like a green screen here. I'm the teacher, and you will see the results here. And there's a direct interaction, but the students are seeing the results there. But also there's a lot of possibilities.
Okay, thank you all. Thanks to the speakers for their contribution. Thank you to all of you for your active participation. We now